people start fucking around with the law and all hell breaks loose. Whatever possessed God in heaven to make a man like Rambo?
God didn't make Rambo. I made him.
Who the hell are you?
Sam Trotman. Colonel Samuel Trotman.
Look, we're a little busy this morning, Colonel. What can I do for you?
I've come to get my boy.
Your boy?
I recruited him. I trained him. I commanded him in Vietnam for 3 years. I'd say that makes him mine.
I wonder why the Pentagon would send a full-bird colonel down here to handle this.
The Army thought I might be able to help.
Well, I don't know in what way. Rambo's a civilian now. He's my problem.
I don't think you understand. I didn't come here to rescue Rambo from you. I came here to rescue you from him.
Well, we all appreciate your concern, Colonel. And we'll try to be extra careful.
I'm just amazed that he allowed any of your posse to live.
Is that right?
Strictly speaking, he slipped up. You're lucky to be breathing.
That's just great. Colonel, you came out here to find out why one of your machines blew a gasket.
You don't seem to want to accept the fact that you're dealing with an expert in guerrilla warfare. With a man who's the best. With guns, with knives, with his bare hands. A man who's been trained to ignore pain, ignore weather, to live off the land, to eat things and to make a billy goat puke. In Vietnam, his job was to dispose of enemy personnel, to kill, period. Win by attrition. Well, Rambo was the best.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring. Snowing and blowing up bushels of fun. Now the jingle hop has begun. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells chime and jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square. In the frosty air, what a bright time. It's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time is a swell time to go gliding in the one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle horse, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. Mix and a mingle in the jingling feet. That's the Jingle Bell Rock. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bell chime and jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square. In the frosty air. What a bright time, it's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time is a swell time to go gliding in the one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle horse, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. Mix and a mingle in the jingling feet. That's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell, that's the Jingle Bell Rock.
Hello everyone, Spaniard here. It is the 22nd of December 2024, and as you can see, I've got Daniela back with me. Hi Daniela, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Thanks, Simon. All right.
Now, you may recall that in May of this year, Daniela kindly agreed to come on and do an interview, very simply because she had just won a court case against Mr. Darren Norman. Now, once that interview went out, something happened. There were some things that happened, right? So, Daniela, do you want to tell us what happened after this interview went out? Or after, after that interview went out, should I say? Not this interview, that interview.
I think it upset a lot of people. Number one, because they have realized that they gave thousands of pounds to somebody that didn't have a clue what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of, a lot of people started questioning the credibility of Darren Norman's trust. So we got a lot of contact, you and I, both of us,
Hmm.
from other victims, and yeah, yeah, they just keep popping up still till today. As you know, we know more and more, so the case is getting bigger and bigger.
Hmm.
And then there was this somebody who really likes Darren Norman, who has fallen for his lies, which we know now it's Laura Nina really protecting him, really saying she hasn't heard of anything ever. He is so credible and so nice, and he's doing such a great job. And you are this, and I am that, and you've heard it all. Hours and hours
Uh-huh.
of that, so boring. Oh, dear.
But when it comes down to the actual court case, when Daniela issued the claim, Darren acknowledged the claim and said that he was going to defend it. Okay. And this then produced a hearing, and Darren didn't turn up to that hearing, and Darren lost. The judge looked at the trust. The judge described the trust as worthless word soup and then awarded judgment to Daniela. The interview in May then went out, and as a result of that, Darren, who didn't turn up to that prior hearing, applied to set aside the judgment. In this instance, Darren claimed that he wasn't aware that there was a hearing, right? So he'd received the claim, he said he was going to defend it. Presumably, there were some other forms and communications which were
Mediation, we had mediation. If he's so
mediation.
comfortable in law and he knows there's unsuccessful mediation,
So there
of
was
course, there
so
comes
there's
the hearing after.
so there was mediation. So he knew there was a court claim, right? He knew there was a claim. He'd actually gotten involved with it. But then when it came down to the hearing, right? He said he wasn't aware of it, and Daniela won that hearing, right? And won the case and got a CCJ awarded against Darren. So Darren applied to set the county court judgment aside on the grounds that he wasn't aware. When you apply to set aside a judgment, what happens is that it generates a new hearing because you've created a controversy, you've created a dispute, you've said that something's gone wrong, and it creates a new hearing. Now, that first hearing, Daniel, that was due to take place in, was it September or
It was
October?
September.
September. And then Darren actually then applied. Well, I tell you what, why don't you tell us, what did he do with that hearing in September?
In September, he sent a letter from a lady called Lisa Steele from Optimal Health Group in Manchester. And she has given him medical diagnosis that he cannot attend the court hearing because of his poor health. This
Right.
lady is a doctor of herbs and shouldn't be given any diagnosis, definitely not medical, and not something that would prevent this guy to attend the court. So obviously you can see how plausible Darren is. He managed to trick even the court into thinking this is doctor's letter.
Well, that's right, because what they did was the hearing in September was then adjourned. Okay, on the basis that they fell for this letter, right? They didn't, obviously the court, I suppose, is just going to take it on spec, certainly the first time round. They took it on spec and they adjourned the hearing. And that was adjourned to what we attended on Friday then, was it?
That's right.
It
Yeah,
was.
I mean, I could have contacted the court and tell them, all this, but then every application to the court costs money.
Cost you, yeah.
And I spent enough on this bloke. I'm not spending any more on him. And he also, to postpone this current hearing, which he tried, would have to pay, which he refused. Can you believe that? So he didn't want to attend to the other hearing either. And the funny thing is, yeah, go on.
I was going to say, so just to clarify that for everyone, so there was a hearing on Friday, right? And just gone. And Darren wrote in, all right, to say that he was too unwell to attend that hearing. Now remember, this is a hearing which he has invoked. So he's invoked it by applying to set aside the judgment, and now he's too ill to attend his own hearing, right? That he's invoked. So he got it postponed until December. The problem that he then faced is that he didn't go to a proper GP, right, proper doctor. He went to some herbalist, and it states on the website of this herbalist that they can't give medical advice, right? Now, thankfully, prior to this hearing that took place on Friday, Daniela had filed in multiple documents. Other witnesses and other victims had filed in witness statements with evidence, and I also filed in a witness statement with evidence as to all of the abuse that I've received and certainly been subjected to following the first interview, and at the hands of someone that had worked with and was supporting Darren Norman. And funnily enough, on some of those posts, Darren Norman was well enough to actually put the thumbs up and the emojis and stuff like that. And I pointed that out to the judge. Now, the judge, thankfully, at that hearing, because we all went down to Portsmouth and we met you down there, didn't we? A couple of us met you down there with your husband. And you went in, and the judge had actually done his homework, hadn't he? He'd actually looked at this medical website.
Yes, he did look it up. So obviously he knew that even the first hearing shouldn't be scheduled or rescheduled. And I assume this is one of his mates that wrote it, or some sort of favor, because she lives in Winchester, which is 40 miles from poor Darren, that is feeling so unwell, and he needs to obviously pay for this examination, private one, where he could actually go to his own GP and get something that's legit.
Yeah, no.
So we know it was a porcupine, don't we?
Yeah. I must admit, I certainly, in my opinion, that does appear highly suspicious. As you say, why would you travel 40 miles to go and get the opinion of someone that's not medically qualified when you could just nip round the corner to your GP and get an opinion from someone that is medically qualified? That doesn't make sense to me. And as Judge Judy says, when something doesn't make sense, it's nonsense. So there you go. But anyhow, as you then alluded to earlier, the judge, thankfully had conducted a lot of research, went onto the websites, had actually really investigated this, which is great. I mean, that's great work on the part of the judge. Judges are not stupid, right? I mean, I appreciate people out there will say, oh, it's all corrupt and blah, blah, blah. And I've got no doubt in some instances, when you're talking about big corporations and stuff like that, I've got no doubt that there are, it's like anything else. There are some judges who may be susceptible to the odd bribe here and there, or the odd enticement, or the odd favor. It happens everywhere in every walk of life. So I've got no doubt that in the realm of judges and legal land, as it were, that there are certain parties who will do likewise. But there are a lot of people who, have gone into that profession for what they believe to be honourable purposes and honourable reasons. And this judge seemed to have done his homework. And he actually described, what did he describe the trust as? Because he changed. It wasn't the same judge, was it, as the first?
It was the same judge.
It was the same judge. So what did he describe the trust as this time round?
Wordless strings of words.
So he kind of expanded like so.
So, like Laura Nina says, no, judge would never say it. Yes, he did. Laura, I know, I'm sure you're watching. He did say that. So wordless strings of words, wordless piece of soup. So that's those exact words that the judge used at 2 occasions. He contacted apparently Gord 3 times, saying he cannot attend the hearing because he didn't know about it.
So let's get this straight. So in advance of the hearing that he doesn't know about, he's asking to adjourn the hearing that he doesn't know about because he doesn't know about it. Yeah, yes. Now that sounds like complete and utter baloney, right? That sounds like meatballs and spaghetti to me, right? Absolute bloody baloney.
He also said he blamed the court for some sort of error. So they apparently sent him a letter that was meant to be for somebody else. So there is like, okay, it's your fault. And also they were saying, this your address still? And he confirmed the address hasn't changed. So he has confirmed that this is a reliable contact for him, but he has not received the notification. But he had another letter from a doctor, and yeah, and said he said he didn't want to pay again. It's unfair to pay for the application again, so he didn't even apply. He just sent an email.
Right. So, okay. So let's just recap on that, right? So Darren didn't receive the information to confirm or to tell him or inform him about the hearing last Friday. But prior to the hearing last Friday, he was complaining that he hadn't been notified about the hearing. How did he even know there was a hearing then, right? I mean, this is like, how did you even know if you've not been informed? And if you suddenly found out, round the back door or indirectly, then what you generally do, what anyone, I guess, would normally do, is contact the court and say, "Excuse me, is there a hearing?" And if you've got like a couple of weeks, I mean, what more time do you need? Presumably, Darren would have known what he was going to argue when he applied to set it aside the judgment in the first place. So what more do you really need to know, right? You should have been prepared for this. But so apart from that nonsense, he then was also feigning or claiming to be ill again. But the judge was having none of that with regards to this this party this herbalist that cannot and is not qualified, and it's on the website, does not provide medical advice. But Darren was then, because he had to apply for a new hearing, but he didn't want to apply for a new hearing, and he decided, I would have thought poorly judged, he had decided to attack the court, having a go at the court, because apparently they sent him someone else's information. So he decided to have a go at them for that, and then refused to pay the fee to reapply. And so what happened was that his application was kicked out, which means that your judgment, the original judgment, still stands, and the order to seize funds from his bank account also reactivates, doesn't it? Because that's what you had done in order to seize the funds. Now, just to remind people, in the very first video, we discussed how you can actually enforce a judgment. So if you've got a county court judgment, in other words, where you're the creditor and someone owes you money, and this applies to, whether you're a bank, whether you are, a local authority, a utility company, an individual, whatever, right? A small company. When you're suing someone and you get the judgment, you all have the same ability to enforce. You all have the same options to go for. And in this instance, Daniela had elected to garnish Darren's bank account and freeze it so that she can now help herself to the balance that's in there. Not a very great balance, a large balance, but it's better than nothing. Now, we have a game plan, which we're not going to discuss online for reasons that you don't give your game plan away, right? But before we move on, you said, Daniela, that he confirmed that his address for the service of this paperwork was the same. Oh, is this the mailbox with the number?
Yeah.
Now, okay, before I ask Daniela what the number is, I just want to confirm for you all. On his paperwork, Darren Norman had stated a mailbox address. Now, this is a mailbox address which is actually used by quite a few people that we know. And the particular mailbox provider allows you, the customer, to pick your mailbox number. So assuming that it hasn't, already been taken by someone else, you can choose your number, right? What number did Darren Norman choose?
666.
So let me just ask Daniela that again, because in case I misheard that. Sorry, what's the number on what's the mailbox number of Darren Norman that he chose?
666.
666. Now, why would anyone choose that number? I mean, I've dealt with bailiffs in the past who turned up in black Range Rovers who had the number 666 in their number plate, and my immediate feeling was what complete and utter arseholes they were for doing that, right? Because there's a stigma attached to the number 666. But here we have Darren Norman, who, promoted by Laura Nina, has chosen 666 as his mailbox number. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, just touching back on, again, we're not going to reveal any secrets here, but we do have a game plan to take this forward. And in light of some other information which I've become aware of, let's put it that way, we're going to probably be seeking to conduct a private criminal investigation. If you've been affected, if you believe you've been affected by Darren Norman, if you've bought some of his trusts and you're unsure about them or the quality of them, then I'm inviting you to email WhiteRabbitEducation@gmail.com. That will come up on the screen. And tell us your story. Tell us what's happened. I'm going to need to see some kind of evidence of it. All right. I don't just take your words on spec. I do conduct due diligence. All right. And some kind of investigation. And you, together with Daniela and others, will have the opportunity of pursuing this new strategy so that we can seek to recover funds from Darren. All right. One thing I want to make you aware of is that I spoke to the police about Darren Norman, and the police are already aware of him. Now, I've seen this independently stated on various posts online in the public domain. This is various people that have spoken to the police about Darren and his activities, and the police have informed them at various times over the last couple of years that they were already aware. So this is someone that is already known to the police. I don't know what for, but he's known to the police, and that's what these parties, and that's what I have been informed. All right. But before we part, I just want to recount an interaction very briefly and from a high-level overview, because I'm not going to give away any names or specific details at this point in time, because this is something which has only just come to light. But last week, I had a chat with a guy whose mother has recently left this mortal plane. She recently passed away. And it came to light, I say recently, so we're talking maybe in the last year or so. But 3 months ago or so, it came to light to him that some of his mother's property had been gifted away or bequeathed to an outsider, someone not in the family. You know where this is going. And it turns out that this outsider is a lady who just happens to be the secretary of Mr. Darren Norman. And this chap was informing me that, having investigated this further, it turns out that various trusts were created for this guy's mum, elderly and potentially mentally incapacitated at the time, and vulnerable following the death of her husband at that time, but that Darren was responsible for the estate planning advice, which included, it would appear, the bequest of property, many, many tens of thousands of pounds of property, to Darren's secretary. I've spoken to this guy for a couple of hours. I've taken down the entire backstory, what's happened, the scenario, the circumstances. I've given him the guidance that I feel is appropriate. But one thing that I said to him, and one thing I'm going to say to you guys out here now, is this, right? When I was in banking, we were not allowed to accept gifts from members of the public or customers. Right? It wasn't allowed because it created a potential conflict of interest, right? So at best, if we were lucky, at Christmas, we might be allowed to accept a bottle of wine or a 4-pack of beer or a box of chocolates. And even then, we had to declare it just like politicians do, right? Well, I know they're supposed to declare stuff. They get many hundreds of tens of thousands of pounds and so on and so forth. We're talking about a 4-pack of beer. And I can remember having to declare this on a special form, send it to head office, human resources, in order for them to say, yes, okay, you can have it. Okay. And the beer would have to sit on the side until you got the approval to have it. And what I said to this guy was that, Darren, I think, made a real error of judgment, because if his secretary was going to be genuinely bequeathed a large amount of property, any property really, from someone that he's servicing as a customer, he should have immediately said, right, I can't deal with this, because it creates a conflict of interest, because of how it could be perceived by external eyes looking in. It doesn't look good. And even from that perspective, it could be completely innocent, but because it doesn't look good, I can't do that. I can't draft, the documentation. I can't draft the will. I can't get involved, because I want to prevent allegations of impropriety. I want to prevent allegations of coercement or any kind of nefarious, actions that have taken place. I want to prevent all of that. And so I'm going to hand this over, or I'm going to suggest that you go see an independent estate planner, and you tell that independent estate planner what you want to do and who you want to leave your property to, right? But he didn't do that. He went ahead and he drew up all the paperwork, okay, as we understand. Now, that's still quite raw. It's only something that's been discovered 3 months ago. Okay, the mum can't say anything because she's unfortunately passed away. So what we have is a scenario which, again, is up for investigation. And that's precisely what I told this guy to do, which is to go and get this investigated. We've all seen things on TV, scenarios like this. And I hasten to add, maybe it's totally innocent. But that's not what I would have done. Right? That's not what I would have done, and I don't think he should have done that. I don't think he should have been the one to prepare that paperwork. But anyhow, watch this space. That one's not going away. And that guy came to us as a result of the first video that we put up, wasn't it? He came to us. That's how he became alerted to it. The whole thing kicked off with his mum. He decided to investigate everything. He recognized the name, investigated all the documentation, and suddenly unearthed all of these financial arrangements, which in effect exclude the old lady's sons, this is this guy and his brother, and her grandchildren, in favor of Darren's PA. It might be genuine, I don't know. It does seem highly weird to me that someone would do. I wouldn't do that. I would leave stuff to my grandkids and my kids, okay? And I'm sure a lot of people would. But then again, as an estate planner myself, as someone that's gone out and seen and signed people up for estate planning purposes, I have seen it where someone's fallen out with their kids and they've decided to exclude them. Anyhow, that's all up for debate. That's all up for discussion. I've got no doubt the truth will eventually come out. Sorry,
So was
Daniela.
it for you and the video that you did? But just so many people now got in touch with us as a result of that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, look, and I want to make something really clear. Do I like making these videos? Well, look, do I actually like the process of making videos? Yeah, I like the process of making videos. Do I like this particular subject matter? Not particularly. I don't want to be calling anyone out. I wish that there were no calls to call anyone out. But unfortunately, it is what it is. And if one becomes aware that there are things happening which shouldn't be happening, well, then you have to call them out. That's in scripture. If you don't do something, when you see some wrong taking place, if you just ignore it, you're just as guilty as the party doing the wrong. If you see an old lady getting mugged and your first reaction is to pick your mobile phone out of your pocket and start filming it in order to get some clicks on YouTube, well, then that's wrong. You're just as bad, right? Because you didn't intervene to stop the old lady getting mugged. Now, I don't want to be doing this, and I certainly don't want all the abuse that I've received in response, because I've been attacked by a whole bunch of people I've never even met, don't even know, never heard of, purely because a certain party, in my opinion, was whipping up a whole host. Whipping up is inciting with their tone, with their words, with their mannerisms, with the way in which they're delivering certain things, with what they're saying, whipping up a whole host of hatred, including anti-Semitic hatred, all right, for no other reason than to antagonize and to cause alarm and distress, all right? That's what I believe. That's in my opinion. Okay, now whether my opinion is shared by others, well, we'll soon find out. Certainly, there are lots of others who seem to agree with me. Certainly, there are lots of others who seem to think they can do what they like and they should be allowed to get away with it. And we'll be addressing some of that maybe in, some of the base core issues in other videos, perhaps. But do I like having to make all these kind of calling out videos? No, it shouldn't. This shouldn't be necessary. Unfortunately, it is necessary. Well, there you go. Go figure. Anyhow,
This is meant to be the truth movement, right?
well,
It just seems the opposite.
well, absolutely. Well, I agree with you. I totally agree with you, and it's heartbreaking. To be honest, I find it really heartbreaking, and so much so that, as far as I'm concerned, I have nothing to do with the truth movement. I don't want anything to do with it because it's not what it was when I first kind of got into this years back. It's changed. It's nothing like what it was, and the vibe is completely different.
Yeah.
It's just Wild West, as far as I'm concerned. It's worse. In fact, I find it worse than what's going on in the mainstream, actually, in terms of attitude and stuff like that.
Because at least you know what you're dealing with the mainstream, right? Here, you are hoping everyone's truthful and honest, and like Darren's calling himself honorable man. He still believes it. I don't know if something's wrong with his head, whether he really believes it, or what is the reason about him like claiming that status.
Well, maybe he does believe it. Obviously, well done. I just want to say, well done to Daniela, because it does take a lot of courage. It takes balls, right? I was going to say it takes balls to actually bring a case, bring a claim, certainly against someone that's actually putting themselves out there as some kind of an expert in law and stuff like that, and giving it the big one and trying to, I guess, scare people off in that respect. But it takes some courage to actually, jump into the unknown and bring and issue a lawsuit. But judges are not stupid, right? They are not stupid. And when you have something of this kind of matter being placed before a judge, they're quite fair. They're quite sensible in terms of they can see what's gone on. They do their own research and investigation, and they come to their own conclusions, right? And that's what a court's all about. So well done, Daniela. Obviously, we'll be discussing this ongoing, with a view to seeking to recover your funds. And the same applies for anyone else out there that feels they've been caused harm. If you want some help and guidance, then by all means get in contact, and we'll see if we can provide that. We've also got assistance in as much as we can help you with paperwork. We can help show you how to do the paperwork, all right, all free of charge. All right, helping you to do that. So in spite of what some people out there would claim,
I was just gonna say everything was for free. Darren doesn't charge me anything. For those who think this is some financial involvement, which we've heard before, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, this is when people speak from a position of ignorance, i.e., ignorance being that they've ignored the facts, or they don't know the facts. And if you don't know the facts and you start making big claims, you end up looking really stupid, because you are acting in ignorance, and therefore you're at risk of making some boo-boos or coming out with some falsehoods. And there's one or two parties out there coming out with a lot of falsehoods, and therefore they look very stupid, in my opinion. But there you go. But they're acting in ignorance, and therefore they are ignorant by pure definition. So yeah, we've put that offer out there to anyone that's been harmed. We are prepared we have the ability to assist you with certainly guidance in terms of how to bring your claim. We've got paperwork that we can actually use to assist you. Okay. And we're happy to do that. It's all free of charge, not a problem. All right. So yeah, let us know if you've been affected by Darren. The email address is up on the screen. And yeah, hopefully we can bring an end to a really unsavory chapter. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I appreciate that, as I say, we'll be talking more, and we'll see if we can bring other people in. The main thing now is to actually recover funds for those that have actually spent or lost a whole host of money to this guy. I can say, actually, one bit of good news, that Lynn, who came on for an interview, in the second interview, actually, that followed your one, Daniela, her brother has received a full refund. So this was a guy who was waiting, I believe, from memory, 2 years. 2 years for pay. We're not talking about 5 weeks, 6 weeks, or something like that. And it does take a period of time to prepare documentation, right? I'm aware of that. So we're not talking about, he waited 6 to 8 weeks to get his documents and then he had to wait another 5 weeks after that. And wow, okay, he wasn't happy about it. We're talking about after 2 years, he hadn't received anything, right? And all the while, Darren was presumably taking on board new clientele, which he shouldn't have done until he'd finished the first job. But he's now received a full refund.
I think that's that thanks to the pressure what we put in on him, because
Maybe.
I don't believe that he was actually bothered about the initial court. I think he just basically got, whatever, I already got CCJs, which he did tell me personally that he
Okay.
already has got CCJs, so he's just gonna have another one, whatever. But obviously he didn't expect this to go public, so I think that's what really, really bothered him, and that's why he tried to set it aside. Nothing else, really.
Well, let's just get one thing clear, right? We're speaking from a position of fact, okay? So Daniela has taken this to court. She's won in court twice now. Twice she's won, right? Twice he didn't turn up. That in itself should tell you something. He didn't turn up. He who leaves the battlefield first loses by default. Now, okay, you've got that maxim, but he was aware of these. He didn't turn up. He had no defense. And as I pointed out in my legal paperwork that I filed in, ultimately, even if this had been set aside, he had no prospect of winning because he is not qualified to sell trusts. Now, funnily enough, there's somebody else out there who's selling trusts, drafting and selling trusts. And when I talk about this, let me just quantify it. We're talking about the drafting and selling of trusts to the general public, right? We're not talking about getting into a private contract with someone. Okay, anyone can go do that if they want. You want to go and draft your own trust, that's up to you. If you don't know what you're doing and you want to draft your own trust, I might suggest that you're pretty stupid doing that, but that's up to you. It's your life, it's your property. You want to put it on the line, that's up to you. You want to throw yourself off of a building, that's up to you, right? I'm not going to stop you doing it. You have the right to do what you want with your life and your property. End of story. But when you are drafting and selling these trusts out into the public domain for the general public to take advantage of, or for other people to take advantage of, or disadvantage of, depending on how you look at it, then that's a different matter. You have to be qualified because you're dealing with a legal arrangement. And he's not qualified. But there's another party out there who's been doing this, and she has now changed her tune, funnily enough. She's now admitting that she has to be qualified and is not qualified, whereas previously she took the same stance as Darren Norman, claiming she didn't need to be qualified. She's now changed her tune. And that's because she's actually been in receipt of the evidence which shows that she does need to be qualified. So she's changed her tune, which is a good thing. It hasn't changed the past. It hasn't changed the fact that she was drafting trusts for people when she shouldn't have been. And it hasn't changed the fact that now she's trying to deny she ever did it. So she's trying to wriggle her way out of that. But the fact remains that she's actually changed her tune. So someone that once agreed with Darren is now disagreeing with him on that point. Anyhow, Daniela, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we will touch base again behind the scenes at some point in order to do what we've got to do and put into place the strategy to recover your funds. So I don't know if you've got anything else you want to say, but if not,
No, I just want to say thank you for all the advice and help, and I'm really grateful that we could help some people, that there's actually somebody who has recovered their money, and I hope that the other people will take this further, because it's a lot bigger than what it seems, and I believe there's hundreds of thousands, if not more, that been wasted because it's worthless what he's doing.
and certainly, if you've had general estate planning provided, do yourselves a favor. I mean, I don't know, but as a precaution, right? I'm not casting any aspersions here, but just as a precaution, based on what the conversation I had last week with this chap, just go and check the paperwork, will you? Just make sure that property is going, if you've had your elderly parents have a will created, just check that paperwork and make sure that you're aware of where property is being distributed to. Okay. If you don't go and check and then it later turns out the property's going somewhere you weren't expecting it to, then you'll end up kicking yourself for not checking. So just go and check. It takes 5 minutes. Go see your mum, go see your dad. Okay, have a cup of tea, see how they are, make sure they're okay. Do your daughterly duty or your son duty. Go see them. It's Christmas time as well, so go see them, buy them a present, and go check their paperwork. All right, just do it. If there's any problems with any of it, get in contact. The email address is on the screen. Okay, and we can take that from there. Otherwise, have a great Christmas, everybody, and we'll see you again soon.
Take care.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
When you're in the private, you are not accessing freedom. You are accessing liberty. Freedom is I can do what I like with no consequence. Liberty is I can do what I like, but I take consequence for my actions. So if I drive down the road and knock somebody's door off their car, it doesn't matter that I'm a living man that I can do that, because I broke the law of no harm, no loss, no injury. So I've got to remedy that. I've got to put that right.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring. Snowing and blowing up bushels of fun. Now the jingle hop has begun. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells chime and jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square. In the frosty air, what a bright time. It's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time is a swell time to go gliding in the one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle horse, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. Mix and mingle in the jingling feet. That's the Jingle Bell Rock. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bell chime and jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square. In the frosty air. What a bright time, it's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time is a swell time to go gliding in the one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle horse, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. Mix and a mingle in the jingling feet. That's the jingle bell. That's the jingle bell. That's the jingle bell.